What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right, we got some fights coming up. Coming up. I've been talking about this, Errol Spence, and been talking a good bit about, all the stuff going on with Deontay Wilder and, excuse me, and Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hearn, excuse me, and all the stuff that's been going on around that. But in the meantime, we've got some very good fights coming up. I believe it is on not this weekend, but next weekend, Saturday, April 21st. And April 21st should be a great day of fights just all the way around. Because you have over in the UK, you got Carl Frampton and Nonito Donaire fighting each other. You got the return of Amir Khan versus Phil Logreco. And then, of course, you got the big card of the night where you have Adrien Broner fighting Jesse Vargas. You have Gervonta Davis fighting Cellular. And you have Jamal Charlo fighting Centino. Now, before I go into this, because I'm going to do some picks that are they might shock you. They might shock you. For regular subscribers, if people listen to me, give me my opinions about fights, I don't usually, I like to see fights happen in the ring, and I don't really like to predict who's going to win, because you never know until somebody gets in the ring. But I've heard enough predictions and enough just where I think on this one, I'm going to let my thoughts be known, and I think I'm going to shock you. So, but before I do that, we're definitely going to want to talk about it in the live stream we have later today. And so the best way to know about that is to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, because don't know what time we always going to do. We do them pretty much every day. But the way to be able to be notified of the live streams is to hit the bell icon so that you can be notified of when they happen. We got a very, very mature audience, very knowledgeable boxing fans. So, I hope that you accept my invitation to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can participate in it. Now, I'm picking Adrien Broner to beat Jesse Vargas. And I took it, I thought about it long and hard. And I thought about what a lot of people were saying about the bout. And I came to the conclusion that most of the people are picking Jesse Vargas. And myself, I could not see how I could pick Adrien Broner. Until I realized, you know what? I'm not really picking Jesse Vargas as much as I'm picking against Adrien Broner. So I said, let me look at this circumstance and try to just take everything off of it and just look at it from, the standpoint of what does Jesse Vargas bring and what does Adrien Broner bring. And when I look at the two, where I thought that Mikey Garcia shouldn't have been a 5-1 favorite, I thought that Mikey Garcia would win the fight because Mikey Garcia had he has enough punching power to hurt people, and he moves well enough in the ring going backwards and forwards, and he's just a very, very well-schooled boxer, right? Now, when I look at Jesse Vargas, I don't see that. What I see with Jesse Vargas is I see a very hard-working guy, somebody that's always a very disciplined guy, but I don't see somebody that brings anything really exceptional as talent-wise into the ring. And so when I look at him, I'm like, okay, well, what has he done in his career, right? What would make me believe that he can do the same things to Adrien Broner that Sean Porter did, that Marcos Maidana did, and that Mikey Garcia did. Now, if I look at Adrien Broner, Mikey Garcia, clearly Mikey Garcia can hurt you. Mikey Garcia has very, very solid punching power, right? And Sean Porter can also hurt you. He's a very mugging, strong fighter, right? And then Marcos Maidana, basically same type of situation where Marcos Maidana is a guy who was, 35 and, 35. He ended his career 35-5, right? But at the time he fought him, he was what, 33, 35, and I think he was 35-3 at the time with 31 knockouts. That's not what you have. That's not what you have in in Jesse Vargas. Right? You don't have a guy that's going to be overpowering you. You don't have somebody that really has something that if Adrien Broner lets his hands go, gives him some reason to shell up. What you have in Jesse Vargas is you have a guy that is 28-2 with 10 KOs. And the last time that he got a knockout was an actual knockout. I'm not talking about a TKO, but even if you use the TKO, he's had one TKO of somebody in the last 7 years. Or one TKO in the last 7 years. The last actual KO was July of 2011. And these are against guys that are not particularly big guys. So in his last 4 fights, he's 2-2 in his last 4 fights, right? He beat Aaron Herrera. And before that, he had lost to Manny Pacquiao. He had knocked out Saddam Ali. And that was the one TKO he had. Before that, he lost to Tim Bradley. He had a unanimous decision against Antonio DeMarco. It was a guy that moved up from lightweight, right? Before that, before that point in time, the best win on his career is either Josecito Lopez. It was either Josecito Lopez or Antonio DeMarco. I see what people are saying when you listen to the commentary about him, is that this guy is somebody who's very disciplined. You know what you're going to get out of him. You don't know what Adrien Broner is going to bring. But what I see is a guy that's tall, right? So he's tall. He's a very fundamentally sound boxer. But I don't see somebody that's going to be able to really going to put any major pressure on Adrien Broner. And he's a guy that I think that Adrien Broner being the smaller guy, and I'm sorry, and I'm going to tell you something else that made me worry, not worry about it, but wonder. Like, why would Floyd Mayweather Jr. say this? When Floyd Mayweather Jr. said that Adrien Broner should fight, and why he shouldn't have fought him at a catch weight, right? So we're now, I'm not sure what the catch weight is. It was like 144 or something like that. Whatever the catch weight is. Floyd Mayweather Jr., to me, I believe he's the promoter in that fight. He's not the promoter on that particular card. Well, he should be because involved in it because Gervonta Davis is going to be on the card. Worries about the catch waiter saying, hey, man, you shouldn't have a cut. We should let this be at the full 147. You know, that makes me wonder, man, is it at this stage in career, how comfortable is Jesse Vargas going to be at 144 pounds or whatever that catch weight is. So, that's why I'm going, and then I'm going to look at Adrien Broner, man, and then the changes he's made with his camp. At this point in time, between the two, clearly, Adrien Broner has been in the most big fights. He's had fights. He's only, to me, lost. I've never seen him blown out in the ring. I've seen him lose to Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia is arguably a pound-for-pound guy. You have Marcus Maidana. Marcus Maidana is somebody that's very, very difficult to fight, very awkward guy who is a lot bigger than him, who went and in one fight did well enough against Mayweather to get a rematch. So, that's what I'm saying, man. I'm not gonna do this thing where I'm just gonna pick against Adrien Broner. If I look at Adrien Broner and I just say, you know what, man, what is Adrien Broner? My whole tension's on Adrien Broner. Then my mind can say, I just can't see him not being able. Doing that is hard for me to think that he can beat anybody. Right? That was where my mind was thinking that way. But so just trying to be honest with myself and say, okay, man, if you really had to put some money on this, are you going to bet on Jesse Vargas because of Jesse Vargas? Or are you going to bet on Jesse Vargas because you don't have any faith in Adrien Broner? And I think that type of thinking can lead you astray when you're looking, when you're trying to judge who you think, the better fighter is going to be on that night. Now, I'm not saying that I know that I think it's a 90-10 fight for Adrien Broner, but I think it's, 52-48 Adrien Broner. I think that I think at this point in time, he's probably the hungrier fighter. And I can tell that by the way that he got back into training pretty much right after, did some, the usual nonsense that he does outside the ring. But for this video, I'm not talking about outside the ring. He pretty much got right back into action. That fight with oh God dog, what's his name? With Mikey Garcia. That wasn't terribly long ago. I think when was that God, I'm actually going to look at this, man, in the video. Forgive me, man, because I want to make sure I get the right date on this. But I believe it was like 5 months ago, but let me just verify it. Yeah, Adrien Broner it was a little more than that. It was about 8 months ago. 7. So is that 5, 6, about 8 months ago? Adrien Broner was in the ring about 8 months ago. And before that, he was in the ring, 5 months before that. And he was there, just short of a year before that. Where Jesse Vargas's activity is, one time in the year, actually, because he hadn't fought in a whole year after Manny Pacquiao, just one time since Manny Pacquiao, right? So in the last year and a half, he's fought one time in the last year and a half. So, but Adrien Broner's, he's been active. So that's where I'm going to go with him, man. Now, this other fight I'm going to talk about is Gervonta Davis, man. And this is another situation where I think, well, for number one, I think that this could be a lot more difficult for Gervonta Davis than it looks on paper. Because this is a guy in cellular he's a good rugged fighter. And when I watched the Abner Mares fight that he lost by split decision, which I do believe is a 126 pounds, he looks like he was a big 126 pounder, and he might have been having a little bit of difficulty making 126 pounds. I have a suspicion that he was a guy that was kind of squeezing down from 130 into 126. He's also somebody that has had a considerable amount of experience in the last 5 or 6 fights that he's had with Southpaws. He fought. Now, these are not clearly these are clearly not guys that are top level Southpaws. But he's had, I think, what has he fought? He fought Victor Chinian, right, back in 2015. That was a Southpaw. He also fought, before that, he fought Juanma Lopez. That was a Southpaw. I believe that I saw maybe 2 other fighters that he had that were a Southpaw. It wasn't Rico Ramos, but I saw 3 or 4 times in recently that he fought Southpaws, and he's a Southpaw himself. So Southpaw on Southpaw, that might be something that they're trying to do to lead up into the Lomachenko fight. Having him fight, this kind of tough, rugged Southpaw and get used to the Southpaw style. I'm not sure the last time that I've seen Gervonta Davis in with the Southpaw, but cellular, he could provide a pretty good test, man. If he winds up to be a guy who's, is stronger, that winds up moving from 126 to be stronger at 130 than 126. And his style is, in watching his fights and going through this, because I'd seen him fight. I'd seen the Victor Chinian fight. I'd seen the Abner Mares fight, or at least I saw portions of them on YouTube. I don't recall if I actually saw them live or not. But regardless, I know enough about cellular to know that what he is he's a very rugged Southpaw. He likes to throw when you throw. He's a strong puncher. He's kind of loopy, right? He's got some kind of loopy punches, but he also hits you. He uses his head, but like the reincarnation. He uses his head like the reincarnation of Bernard Hopkins and Evander Holyfield. Like, you can pretty much bet that there's going to be a significant amount of headbutts in this fight between Gervonta Davis and Cellular. And, and then here's the other thing, man. It's like Argentine fighters from Argentina, you just never know what you're going to get from these guys. You never know what you're going to get from them. There are guys from Argentina like Marcos Maidana, Sergio Martinez. I think also Lucas Matisse is from Argentina. But it's just like whenever I see that somebody's about to fight a fighter from Argentina, I always think, man, okay, this could be an upset in the making. A tough, rugged guy from Southpaw from Argentina, you know that you're more than likely going to be in for a fight. And it's going to be a good fight. Their records don't all the time don't necessarily show all the time, how good, or how difficult they are once you get into the ring. You know what I mean? So, now on the other side of him, though, he definitely has taken, he lost to a guy in Oscar Escandon, and that was a few years ago. But Oscar Escandon is the guy who just got he was the last guy that Gary Russell Jr. fought. Gary Russell Jr. wound up stopping him, but I swear, man, man, if that dude wasn't on something, man, oh my God. You just kept hitting him. He would just take a deep breath, get whooped and be right back on Gary Russell Jr. back throwing hands. But eventually he did enough. Gary Russell did enough to letting his hands go to get him out of there. Now the thing with, I'm certainly not going to predict that pick Cellular to beat Gervonta Davis, but I'll tell you, I do believe that this could be a situation where this could be an extremely, extremely tough test for Gervonta Davis. Similar to what happened, and the thing that makes me think about this a lot as well is, it kind of reminds me of the situation between Robert Easter Jr. and Javier Fortuna, right? Now, leading into the Robert Easter Jr. versus Javier Fortuna fight, I had Easter because Javier Fortuna had moved up in weight. He had lost to Jason Sosa, right? He's moving up to lightweight. And, I saw that as being a situation where Fortuna, a southpaw from the Dominican Republic, was going to be, he should be outboxed by Robert Easter. But what you got was a very wily veteran who was willing to do any and everything he could do to win the fight, legal and illegal, and really just continue to bring the fight, do a bunch of awkward stuff that just threw the younger fighter, threw him off. And Robert Easter, I think Robert Easter won. I'll acknowledge that it was a very, very tough fight between Robert Easter and Javier Fortuna. So, but in this fight, man, I think there's a chance that it might be the same. Now, there's also a very good chance, though, that he might get this guy out of there in three rounds. He could it just really does depend on what type of chin that this guy Cellular has. If he's the type of guy that is that has an extremely good chin and he's awkward enough and, does enough things that can kind of throw Gervonta Davis off, right? Then it could wind up being a very, very tough 12-round fight. A very, very tough 12-round fight. Where, of course, I do believe that, Gervonta Davis would come out on top. But it just has the makings of, of something that can be real ugly And even here, like you have the height and the reach. This guy he's taller. He's an inch taller, and he's got a longer reach than Gervonta Davis. He is, God dog, how many years older? He is 1986, so 30. Does that put him at 30 years old? 31 years old? All right, 96, 2006, 32 years old. He's 32 years old. You know, he's a little bit taller. And at 32 years old, you know, and he's been pro. God, man, and yeah, exactly. He's a 10-year, and he's a 10-year pro. That's just, I mean, it just could be something real funny, man. But, you know, I could also get Gervonta Davis by knockout. So anyway, it is what it is, and that's me on that. Peace.